guys, what's up? Kil2. Got something different for you right now. I wish I had a fight, but I don't. I've had some good fights this week actually, but nothing that's really worth posting. So instead, I'm going to both check my resolution again. I made another change, and I think this might be the one I needed. And also, I want to talk to you guys about the map. I have been just talking to more and more of you, and everyone really needs help finding fights more than they need help flying their ships, I think. And last night particularly, I had someone watch me via Skype, which was kind of a trial run for streaming, which might happen eventually, but I'm not sure. And I got 3 fights in under 30 minutes while he was watching, and it blew him away, and it made me realize that that's something people, I think, need help with. So I'm going to talk about it. If you don't need help with it, don't worry about watching this video. There's no epic footage of any kind going to be here. So anyway, let's start. I think this is the default way the map starts. I'm not sure, but I think so. It's colored by security status. And I think it's also unflattened, which is bad. So if you use it like that, don't do that. Flatten it out like this. And then I never spent any time looking at the map really in this security status setup, but it's good to have kind of an intuitive understanding of it with just the high sec at the center, 0-0 surrounding it. And throughout this whole thing, it's sort of implied that the more familiarity you can develop for geography in EVE, the better off you'll be. So remembering sort of how far things are from each other, you know, having somewhere in your mind the fact that certain 0-0 regions are closer to certain high-sec areas, or certain 0-0 regions connect to one another, all that kind of stuff is helpful, but it's not necessary. I think the important thing is just to know that, you know, you move from high-sec to low-sec to 0-0 generally. So try to get that down, but after that you can really abandon this view of the map, and the view that I want to recommend, the one that I use almost exclusively, is average pilots in space in the last 30 minutes. And so this gives you a good sense of the way players are spread around EVE, of course leaving out wormholes. So again, you have high sec in the middle in this area, and most of it's Caldari high sec with less in Amar. And then from there, you can get a wider sense of where people are playing in 0-0. And one thing you might notice right away is there's really not very many people in 0-0. And I think that is actually at the heart of what makes it hard to find fights for a lot of people. They end up in places where there's just not people. And so one of the biggest axioms I have is just go to where people are and where they're allowed to shoot each other, and that will really drastically increase your chances of finding fights. But let's be more specific. So I'm started here in Jeddah, and I think that's helpful. I think that people have a lot of different places they live in EVE, but for me, living centrally has always produced the best results. I used to live in Rennes, which is also really good, which is over here, and I spent a little while living by Quirius, which is down like in this area, I think, somewhere down here. And I just noticed that it limited my options, and I had less regions available to me in a manageable distance, and that decreased the amount of fights that I could get. So you don't have to live somewhere central, but it helps. So I'm in Jeddah right now, and if I was going to find a fight, I would want to have some sense of what's close to me that could provide a fight. And the best way to figure that out, if you don't have any previous knowledge, honestly, is just start setting destinations. So I know that anywhere out here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but anywhere out here there's going to be 0-0, anywhere outside this pocket in the middle. So I'm just going to start setting destinations. Set a destination to this system. 17 jumps. Out here, 23 jumps. And you can see along your route how long it takes to get to 0-0, and that's important. So this is an entry system 7Q, but it's going to take me 21 jumps just to get to 0-0. Here's a random place, you know, 36 with at least 20 before I get to 0-0. And so that's kind of the way that I would want to compare the time I would have to invest to get to different places. But I also don't think that's a barrier people focus on too much. 20 jumps is actually not that far. It'll take you 15 minutes or whatever. So don't worry about that too much. But then, alright, so after that, I'm just going to start looking for places where there's people. So if I start out looking at the map like this jumps out at me over here because of this little busy pocket. I don't know, I don't have all my information organized in a really great way here, but this looks to me like care bearing. This looks like a place where people are living, not where people are fighting, and I like that. So this is a little busy. I'm probably going to die if I go here, but I am going to get a fight, and a lot of time I'm going to get a fight where I can kill some stuff. So if I set that as a destination where there's 38 people active and local, then I look at the route on the way back that I'm going to be traveling through. And particularly I look at the entry. So this is the entry that's fastest for me, W-4. That's coming from this low sec, which doesn't have very many people, and W4 has 9 pilots in it. That's right kind of in a good sweet spot. I kind of have this thing in my head where at an entry system I expect between a half and the entire amount of people active according to the map to be active PvPers probably on the gate. So here I would expect to camp between 5 and 10 people on the gate. Whereas up here, back at the final destination, I expect a much smaller percentage of this to be active PvPers. So like this first system I get to that has 10 local, I expect maybe 2 or 3 people to be interested in responding to my presence there. The rest of them are probably ratting, running anomalies, whatever. And then as you work your way further back up, you can look at the low sec entry. It's always a good thing to check as well. So here, 9 people, I don't really think that's a problem. I'm not really too scared of a low sec entry unless the map says it has more than 20. But one way you can check is use another statistic over here, which is ships destroyed in the last hour. It's actually pretty hot there, 6 destroyed in the last hour. So I would be a little wary of that, and I might even look for a different entry if I could find one. Like if I could set a destination somewhere nearby, I don't know where it would be, maybe over here, although that looks even busier, and work my way around it. But really 6 is fine. Maybe if I could, what I'd do is just check it somehow with something small, you know, dock your main ship back here and then hop in and see if there's anything on the gate. 9 isn't too bad for active pilots. But okay, so that's one example. Where's another example? Well, we talk a lot about entries, and it's good to know where all your entries are. So near JITA you have MO, you have P3, you have BWF, LXQ. But the problem is if you just hear these names, like if someone just gets fights in EC-P or in LXQ or in BWF, you can see if you set a destination to LXQ right now without checking the map, there's no one here. And not only is there no one here, but the nearest places where there are people have 60 or maybe up here 36. So that's kind of not a good place to go as far as I'm concerned. And then you have the same problem, you have the opposite problem. Rather than nobody being at the entry, in BWF you have 25. And so I can get all this information, you know, people talk about jumping into camps and how it's really hard to keep their ships alive. Well, if you just check BWF, or if you live closer, like if you live in low sec over here near Akora and you just are checking BWF randomly, you're going to jump into big camps like this. But if you use the map, you can find out that that's not actually necessary. You can avoid that. So I would just avoid this. And, you know, this area, like this region here through P3, no places with a whole bunch of collected activity, but that might be good. If you're someone who's a little new or whatever and kind of nervous about going to 0-0, this region looks awesome. There's like people active, 1 or 2 people in each system, probably doing a range of different things, but you can roam around in here and eventually you're going to catch someone's attention probably. But you're never going to run into a camp. I would be shocked to, you know, if I decide I'm going to go here and then I'm going to go to that system, then I'm going to go over and check this system, then I'm going to go over and check this system. You can do a big loop in this region. It's not even that many jumps. And I would just be floored if there was a big blobby gang here. And so then that lets you get comfortable with being in 0-0, and then you can scale up the amount of pilots active in the constellation that you're comfortable with. So like this area down here might be great. I could set as this Providence, I think. You can see the low sec entry, like I said, up here at KRAM or whatever is totally safe. You're safe all the way down here. And then you get into R3, and then this area starts to get really busy. And Providence is known for being pretty active. They're probably going to come and kill you pretty fast. And so this might be a little too densely populated for me to recommend someone new. But if you start in places like where I was pointing at before, you work your way up to where this looks more appealing to me than P3 did, because there's more people and more likely to get a fight quickly. And if you go here, you'll get a fight quickly. Like if finding fights is hard for you and you're frustrated because you never find anything, check the map, find a place like this, go there, you'll find a fight. It's 22 jumps to get there, but then when you get there, you're guaranteed to get killed, and so at least you don't have to wait. And then you just try to strike a balance between going places that are too empty and places that are too full. And you get better at that as you get familiar with particular regions. For instance, a place like EC, which only shows 7, that 7 carries a lot more weight with me than 15 might in a different entry. Like for instance, this entry, RQH, which is a entry to Pure Blind, there could be 7 here and I'd be stoked to go check it out. 7 in EC, I'm a little more nervous. I'm expecting recons or whatever, and that's just based on experience. But the point is, don't go to RQH when it's completely empty. Don't go to EC when it shows 25 people. And then I think the only other main statistic that's worth adding to the way you use the map here is pilots docked and active. So if we go back up to that region I was talking about before, up here in Fade, which does look very busy, but if I use this, number of pilots currently docked and active, that'll add people docked. Actually, it might only be the people docked. Rather than, yeah, it is, because there was activity down here and that's empty. So this adds docked pilots. So there was 38 active in L-C and there's also 60 docked. So that's extremely busy. And that can help you get a sense of how many people you're going to have. And another thing that can be helpful for is if you go to a system that says it has 10 active, and then you get there and there's 50 in local, you might freak out thinking there's a gang, but it might just be that there's 40 people docked, and you can check them out beforehand so you know to expect that the system's going to be pretty packed, but that's not necessarily dangerous. And the one last thing I really would want to point to is that when you are looking at average pilots in space in the last 30 minutes, or any stat that's based on a time length, it's an average, and you can actually get extra information from that. One thing, the only thing that makes me nervous about this route here is the fact that there was like 4 here, 5 here, 4 here. If you see a route like a pipe that has a lot of activity, that activity can be generated by a gang moving around. So if you have a gang of 40 moving over 10 jumps over the course of the half an hour, each system along that route is going to show like 8 people or 6 people, and you might go there expecting to find little groups of 6 people doing different things, but actually it's one giant blob that you're going to end up crashing into. And so you have to be wary of that. But it's really, it's a lot better when you see, like if you ignore BWF here, since it's obviously camped, and you go up and look at this area, you know that MA, HE, F-D, these are systems where people are stationary because there's not activity in the adjacent systems. And so that lets you know that if you do go to this system, if I set a destination here, which takes me through BWF, which is bad, but I can count on this 5 jumps leading up to it being very empty, and then F-D actually having 10 people that are probably mining, running anomalies, whatever. And that is a good place to go. Generally, I like going deeper than the entries, because a lot of times the response you're going to get deeper in is going to be less organized, less coordinated, just easier to take advantage of. Generally, people are going to make more mistakes. Yeah, so I hope that's helpful. This is really what I do. Like if I was going to go roam right now, really what I would do is I would scan around, check all these entries, EC, MO, P3, BWF, and then I would check past them to areas that look busy. And probably what I would end up doing right now is going up here. I like the fact that W4 at the entry has a few people active. I like that the low sec doesn't look particularly scary. And I like the fact that once I get up to these regions where the people actually live, I think it's Fatal Ascension space, there's plenty of people active, but they're not organized. These people are going to be doing their own thing, and I'm going to be able to get them stirred up and hopefully chasing me a couple jumps back towards high sec this way, where hopefully I kill someone around here. And that's what I do. And a lot of time it wouldn't work out, and I would die, and a good chunk of the time it would work out, and I'd get a fight. So I hope that's interesting. If I can do a better job explaining this part of how I roam, or if you guys have questions about things I've said, definitely ask in the comments is fine. I'll try to respond there. But I think this is like key, using the map just in the way I've explained, not too much more complicated than that, other than adding familiarity. That's pretty much it, is like the thing you need to find fights pretty regularly. So I hope that helps you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.